In April 2017, the United States Air Force deployed a non-nuclear bomb, known as Moab, in a remote area of Afghanistan. Sometime before the attack, on the outskirts of Nangarhar province, Kate and Terry are flying over the region in their military fighter jet when they are suddenly attacked by an enemy missile. To save his partner, the pilot fires the defense system, but they end up being hit anyway. As a result, the aircraft enters a critical state, and in order to get out of that situation alive, the pair decides to eject. Minutes later, Kate and Terry wake up in the middle of the desert, and before he can help his partner, the man is surprised by the Afghans and is hit by numerous shots. As soon as one of them approaches the body, he is surprised by Kate, who finishes him off with her gun and fires at the other enemies, managing to neutralize them. The problem is that another Afghan appears, and when she realizes her gun is out of ammunition, the woman tries to flee. Before her friend is eliminated, Terry shoots the man in a last heroic act. Devastated, Kate approaches her partner, who apologizes for not being able to get them out of that situation. Wanting to honor her friend's sacrifice, the combatant gathers her equipment and heads into the desert, looking for a way to call for rescue. At the same time, the rest of the Afghans find their leader still alive and discover that the soldier has fled. After walking for a few minutes, Kate sees a convoy of enemy vehicles surrounding the area and decides to run towards one of the bunkers to try to hide. However, before she can do so, the woman is found by the men, who start shooting at her. The leader then fires a missile at her, and after dodging the explosion, the combatant notices that the bunker door has opened. Without wasting any time, Kate runs inside and uses her pistol to eliminate one of the criminals approaching the entrance. Soon after, the woman comes across a huge staircase, which seems to be hundreds of meters deep, and with no other choice, she decides to go down so she won't be captured. Although confused about what this place is, Kate continues to explore the site carefully, and upon hearing the group of criminals descending behind her, she moves forward in search of an exit. Upon entering one of the wings, the fighter smells a terrible odor and comes across a human body in a frightening condition. In addition, Kate finds a mysterious device, along with several papers and records about experiments that were being carried out there. At that moment, the woman hears the criminals approaching, and after throwing away her light stick, she hides behind one of the pillars. At the same time, one of the Afghans turns on the generator, causing all the lights to come back on and revealing dozens of capsules containing human bodies. Taking advantage of the group's distraction, Kate attacks one of them with her fighting skills and manages to steal his weapon. When they see their enemy, the criminals fire repeatedly at her, destroying one of the capsules and causing the body to fall to the ground. After taking cover, Kate spots a hatch next to her and decides to climb down it so she can escape the ambush. As soon as he notices that his enemy has entered the tunnels, the leader orders one of his henchmen to follow her to surround her, and yells at the other to stay there in case she returns. The man holds his position and begins to approach the body that fell from the capsule. Meanwhile, Kate crawls silently through the tunnels and remains still when one of her enemies appears to check the hatches near her. Meanwhile, one of the men who was standing guard tries to cover the fallen bodies with a transparent tarp, unaware that the mutant creature is still alive, and before he can react, he is attacked by it. At that moment, Kate manages to reach one of the emergency exit stairs, but ends up being surprised by Malik, the leader of the Afghans. At the same time, the other criminal comes across the body of one of his colleagues, who is being devoured by the monster, and screams for his boss to help him. Taking advantage of the distraction, Kate fires her flare gun at the man's chest. Quickly, she picks up the enemy's fallen rifle and uses the weapon to eliminate the other criminals. Immediately afterwards, Kate throws a grenade to knock the men down and runs to climb the stairs. As soon as she reaches the top, she is surprised by one of the Afghans, who grabs her foot, and suddenly, his face is attacked by the creature, which also tries to devour the soldier. Desperate, Kate tries to run outside, and despite being grabbed by the monster, she manages to escape the bunker. To trap the creature, the woman closes the doors with chains, and before leaving, she is surprised by another enemy. Seeing the monster trying to get out of the bunker, the criminal decides to flee, and without thinking twice, Kate runs away. Halfway there, the woman ends up falling to the ground due to her injury, and in order to endure the pain and keep walking, she uses medication. During her walk, Kate is suddenly hit by a military vehicle, and when they realize she is an ally, the soldiers rush to her aid. The next day, the woman arrives at a temporary army base, and when she meets Roy, the major in charge of the place, she tries to convince him that something is wrong in that bunker. However, the man does not believe her words and says that the situation has worsened considerably since the beginning of the clashes, so they must remain focused solely on the main mission. Irritated, Kate describes the creature she saw during her escape, but Roy remains firm in his decision, and after confiscating the device she had taken from the laboratory, he asks her to go find the doctor at the camp. At the same time, one of the squads arrives with a prisoner, and the major asks them to try to extract any information they can from the man. Outside, Sergeant Tom approaches to calm Kate, who is furious at the way they are dealing with this new threat. After that, the pair walk through the camp while talking, and Tom reveals that this is where only problematic soldiers are sent, since Afghanistan has the worst types of military missions. Later, Kate receives care from the paramedic, and at that moment, Tom appears alongside Sergeant Jones. The men then reveal that they believe their colleague, but in order to know what the next step will be before returning to the bunker, they need more information about what happened there. Upon hearing this, Kate uses a clipboard to write the phrase in Russian that she had seen on the doors of the hideout, and reveals that she remembers it perfectly thanks to her photographic memory. However, she explains that she has no idea what the message means, and at that moment, the Afghan prisoner responds to the group, saying that it is a warning saying "do not open." In addition, the criminal claims that regardless of what Kate has said about the bunker, he guarantees that those things are much worse than they imagine. Confused, Tom explains that if the hideout is really Soviet, it would have been closed for at least 30 years, but the doctor assures him that no human being could survive that long locked up. The criminal then replies that the living being in that bunker is not human, and this issue worries the group. At dusk, the soldiers decide to take turns guarding the area, as new enemies could appear at any moment. In his cabin, Roy contacts the colonel, who orders him to send the device that Kate found. At that moment, it is revealed that the device is a recorder, and the major states that if he wants to receive the device, his superior must tell him everything that is happening. Far away, the creatures in the bunker manage to free each other and gather to destroy the chains that are blocking their exit. During the night, Soldier Serrano begins his shift in Dwayne's place, but as he walks away, he hears a strange sound. Turning around, the soldier notices that his friend has disappeared, and confused, he approaches the barricade to check what happened. At the same time, Soldier Dave begins to smell a horrible odor spreading through the camp and decides to look around. Thanks to this, the man sees the creatures running toward the base and shouts to alert everyone, causing the squad to grab their equipment to begin combat. Quickly, the combatants take their positions at the barricades and fire at anything that moves. Realizing that Kate was telling the truth, Roy orders Sergeant Tom to lead the squad to use all necessary weaponry. As such, the fighters attempt to eliminate the approaching invaders, but suddenly, Dwayne is surprised by one of the creatures, which destroys his head with a single blow. Desperate, Sienna shoots at the monster, managing to knock it off the wall. Immediately afterwards, the paramedic rushes to try to help the soldier, but there is nothing that can be done. At that moment, one of the creatures tries to surprise the combatants with a jump, and Tom shoots the creature with his gun, causing it to fall into the major's hut. Quickly, Roy attacks the creature and with shots from his gun, manages to destroy part of its body. Now outside, the soldiers spread out to deal with the threats as best they can. However, when Tom lights his flare, he sees more invaders approaching and yells for the squad to retreat immediately. Before they can do so, two of the soldiers are hit by the monsters, along with a third member, who is caught while trying to hide in the bathroom. Hearing a monster approaching, Kate tries to open the weapons chest, but without success, and after entering the cabin, it attacks the woman. The creature then tries to trap her with its tongues, and wanting to help her, the Afghan frees himself from his handcuffs. Quickly, the man manages to improvise and unlocks the chest, and after grabbing a machete, he delivers a powerful blow to the creature, which falls to the ground and continues to be attacked with total fury. Outside, chaos has broken out in the camp, and determined to eliminate his enemies, a sniper fires the team's most powerful weapon from atop a tripod, but quickly has his head removed by one of the monsters. As a result, the weapon begins to spin as it fires, hitting the fuel cans and causing a huge explosion in the camp. After recovering, the squad encounters one of the creatures right in front of them and manages to neutralize it together. At that moment, the major runs out of ammunition, and before he can react, he is hit by a powerful blow from his enemy. The soldiers quickly run to one of the barricades, along with Kate and the prisoner, who is immediately surrendered by Jones. As soon as they notice the silence, Tom realizes they need to act and orders Sienna to run to the armory, while he leaves with the paramedic to find the major. Upon arriving at the cabin, the soldier throws a stun grenade at the creature, allowing Roy to grab his baseball bat to defeat it with a blow. After that, the men rescue their superior and take him to the armory, where Dave and the other soldiers are opening the equipment container. However, what they didn't realize was that the place would be practically empty. At that moment, the soldiers return to the rest of the squad, but are surprised by one of the creatures, so Kate has to grab an axe from the container, jump on the monster's back, and manage to wound it enough for Tom to finish it off. With the way clear, the group rushes to enter the container, and after closing the doors, they try to rest for a while until they have a new plan. At dawn, the soldiers open the container doors to check the camp and realize that both the invaders and the bodies of the combatants are no longer there. Minutes later, the group finds the body of one of the creatures lost in the area and tries to analyze it to find out what these things are. During the investigation, Dr. Wilkes discovers that the monster has retractable teeth, extremely thick skin, and human organs. In addition, the group realizes that these creatures have a huge weakness to sunlight, as they have completely altered DNA. At that moment, the Major reveals that he received some news from intelligence during his last communication and apologizes to Kate for not believing her. Roy explains that in 1979, a giant unidentified object invaded the Earth's atmosphere, landing in a nearby region, and interested in what it could be, the Soviets tried to investigate the impact area. When they came across a large destroyed spaceship, the collectors were completely shocked and decided to use the DNA of the life forms they found there to create a new type of weapon of war. Concerned, Kate claims that she saw an army incubated in the capsules of the underground bunker, which could wake up at any moment, so they need to leave that place immediately. However, there is not enough fuel for them to leave the desert, and realizing that they will have to stay there and face the creatures, Roy promises that he will fight alongside his companions until the last second. During the conversation, the fallen creature suddenly comes back to life, and after attacking everyone around it, it tries to devour Kate's head with its tongue. To free herself, the woman hits her enemy with a headbutt, and realizing that the entire squad will be eliminated, Roy pulls out his fragmentation grenade. Without thinking twice, the man throws himself at the monster, causing his body to be destroyed by the explosion. In a panic, Tom runs to help his friend, but Roy no longer has any chance of survival and loses his strength in a few seconds. After calming down, Tom approaches the prisoner and decides to free him so they can work together from now on, since the man never lied to them. The squad then gathers to count their resources and ammunition, and when they realize they won't have enough firepower to deal with another invasion, they decide to attack the bunker to eliminate all the creatures in a surprise attack. So, the soldiers prepare for their final mission against the mutants, and Tom says that all they need to do is plant their bombs and leave the site before the big explosion. After breaking into the bunker, Tom and Jones head inside the facility with Kate and the prisoner Kabir, while the other soldiers guard the exit outside. Without wasting any time, the group plants the explosives and begins to leave the site, but when Tom notices that his friend has dropped her medallion on the floor, he approaches the stairs to pick it up. Because of this, the man ends up being pulled by one of the creatures, and a few seconds later, Kate can hear the soldier's voice on her radio. At that moment, the woman realizes that the monsters are holding Tom prisoner, and determined to rescue her friend, she joins the other soldiers to go down in search of him. In order to operate the elevator crane, Wilkes remains in the military vehicle, and despite the intense situation, they manage to descend to the underground area successfully. At the same time, the medic hears an alert on the vehicle's radio, giving instructions to evacuate within the next 20 minutes. Desperate, Wilkes alerts the group about the evacuation, and the squad sets off in search of Tom, while Dave holds his position to protect the elevator. Meanwhile, Tom manages to use a knife to eliminate the creature that was imprisoning him, and now that he is free, he sets out to find his friends. As soon as they reach the laboratory wing, the squad is shocked by the number of victims the creatures have eliminated, and as they approach the central capsule, they encounter a huge monster forming inside. At that moment, Tom is surprised by one of the creatures, and upon hearing Kate's call, he runs towards the laboratory, where his companions eliminate the creature with their weapons. At the same time, Wilkes sees a group of Afghans surrounding the bunker and climbs up to the vehicle's weapon to eliminate the threats, firing at everyone. In the elevator, Dave is surprised by several mutant creatures, and while shooting at them, he activates the emergency alarm. Realizing that the monsters have set a trap to capture them, Kate says they need to leave, and quickly, the group closes the door behind them. However, noticing that the mutants will be able to move the crank, Jones holds the object with all his strength and asks his group to leave while he delays the enemies. Outside, Wilkes runs out of ammunition and tries to reload, without even noticing that one of the Afghans is right below him. During the escape from the bunker, Sienna hears a roar behind her and holds her position to ensure that the rest of the group reaches the exit. The squad then reaches the elevator, but when Tom notices that the woman is not with them, he decides to rescue her and orders them to run if they don't return in 5 minutes. After being surprised by one of the creatures, Sienna confronts her enemy with the objects around her, managing to eliminate him with a series of furious blows. However, the woman ends up being attacked by another mutant, who devours part of her face, eliminating her instantly. In a panic, Dave yells at Wilkes to pull the group away immediately, but the paramedic ends up being knocked down by one of the Afghans, who is about to eliminate him with his knife. Seeing his friend lose her life, Tom decides to face the creature, using a cleaver and a trash can lid as a shield. At that moment, Jones runs out of strength, and after moving away from the door, he pulls out his detonator, sacrificing himself in the explosion to eliminate several of the mutants around him. Hearing the explosion, Tom decides to flee so he won't be hit, and soon after, the flames destroy countless monsters in the bunker's corridors. In the vehicle, Wilkes manages to free himself from the grip, and while fighting bravely against each of the enemies, he activates the crane to pull the group up. The problem is that the explosion ended up destroying part of the mechanism, causing the vehicle to start moving forward. Desperate, Wilkes tries to stop the vehicle's movement, and in the elevator, Kate and Kabir face dozens of creatures alongside Dave, who ends up having his head pierced by the arm of one of them. Realizing that he will not be able to stop the crane, the paramedic decides to jump to the other side of the car and screams in panic as he witnesses the end of his team. In the midst of the fight, Kabir sees the military vehicle appearing at the top of the stairs, and when he is grabbed by one of the creatures, he realizes that he will not be able to escape. So, the man yells at Kate to jump off the platform, and thanks to that, the woman manages to save herself at the last second, while a huge explosion eliminates Kabir and the other creatures. Seconds later, the soldier meets Tom, and in order to escape, the survivors shoot one of the cables, causing them to be pulled up at high speed. On the surface, Wilkes is about to be finished off by the criminals when his team shows up at the last second, eliminating each of them with their weapons. Soon after, the group sees the military plane firing the nuclear missile and uses one of the vehicles to try to escape from that place. Finally, the big bomb hits the ground, destroying everything and everyone within a radius of kilometers around the desert, and the trio narrowly manages to escape. Realizing that the attack was nothing more than a cover-up, the group decides to simply leave that hellish desert. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.